Meditation and deep meditation. From the EDGAR CAYCE readings. Meditation is listening to the divine within. Meditation means, then, the entering within self to seek for the creative forces, or to seek that God may make for the using of the body, mentally, physically, spiritually, as a greater manifestation of His love in and among men. Meditation is well always, for the mental attitude has much to do with the general physical forces. Prayer is the concerted effort of our physical consciousness to become attuned with the consciousness of the Creator. Meditation is prayer from within the inner self. In prayer we speak to God, in meditation God speaks to us. Meditation is emptying self of all that hinders the creative forces from rising along the natural channels of the physical man to be disseminated through those centers and sources that create the activities of the physical, the mental, the spiritual man. Properly done must make one stronger mentally, physically. Thy prayer is as a supplication, or a plea to thy superior, yet thy meditation is that thou art meeting on common ground. Meditation means entering into the spiritual vitalization of the energies of the system, by raising those forces through the very activities of procreative actions. Prayer is supplication to God and meditation is listening to His answer. Please advise me about my meditations. First, study to know what meditation is. As has been indicated, the relationships first of body, mind, soul, then as these are understood, the natural forces, the natural manners of meditation will become as a part of self. Read oft those things that are promises, as are given in the New Testament. Learn those by heart, not as rote, but read them to know how they apply to self. And you will have meditation. Prayer, in short, is appealing to the divine within self, the divine from without self, and meditation is keeping still in body, in mind, in heart, listening to the voice of thy Maker. Deep meditation. There arises in the experience of the self the necessity for the deep meditation, with the awareness that His presence is so nigh unto thee. Will I benefit from lying daily 15 minutes on board with head lower than feet? If such a period is used as a period of meditation, very well, but the greater benefit will be obtained from the meditation. Though such a position, of course, will induce the flow of influences and forces through the system, by such a deep meditation. Can I overcome the bad cracking condition in my head? How? By stimulating the areas indicated by mechanical, or osteopathic, adjustments, and the making for better coordination and drainage through those channels of the system, as well as glandular forces of the body. Please give instructions for conducting a daily deep meditation, with a prayer for use. The activities of meditation are personal. The preparations for same, to some individuals, are just as necessary as the meditation itself. For, as is comprehended in the minds of most of those who seek to meditate, the attitude of the individual is the greater incentive for such. Then, we would first have a regular period. Then, in whatever form is most desirable, cleanse the body and mind. Then, relaxing, gently, let this be as the theme, though in thine own words. Lord of might, of love, be thou the guide in the things I do and say day by day, that my body, my mind, may fill that purpose thou hast for me among those of my household, my home, my loved ones, my friends, and all I meet day by day. Help me to use each opportunity to be a light bearer for thee, in His name. Keep me, ever. Can she help her own present physical condition by her way of thinking? By deep meditation, as she saw in that experience, as given by Him to all at the period, that to each there should be the turning within and the trusting wholly in the power of God. In Mercury's influence, and the distant expression with Saturn's adverse force, we find the healing, helpful force, as sought or expressed in the green, and the entity experiences, or finds such from deep meditation. Those influences, as we find from the Jupiter and Sujjan, make for the innate forces. For these of the astrological nature are as urges deep within, and only give the greater manifestations under stress, or under the deep meditation, or deep reasoning. Before this the entity, as EDGAR CAYCE, entered the earthly experience for a period that brought hope then sorrow, to the many, and yet builded, through that Sujjan, into the hearts of those who were associated with the entity a tie to the unseen as found in the promises in him. In the experience the entity sought expression not of self, yet not finding altogether that environ sought, returned to the Mercurian influence for the deeper meditation. Is it any wonder, then, that the entity seeks at times to be alone, and most oft hums to itself, as at no other time during such periods? Before that, though there were others between, the entity was in the promised land, during that period when the Master walked in the earth. The entity was among those families in Bethsaida, in which the entity made the home his resting place. Hence the entity was close to and acquainted with him, and gave self even in physical activities for the pleasure, the comfort, of a tired man, the Son of God. We find that the entity became close in its activity with those who were the establishers of the church, among the holy women, and a helper oft. 4. The entity was young in years during those periods of contact with him in the physical manner, yet those periods, those activities, those conscious moments in his presence, with those happenings that to the entity were the loss not only of a friend, but of a savior, brought awe-inspiring experiences in the mental and the spiritual self that are part of that consciousness experienced by many in the present, who come into the very presence of the entity, though the entity is now not so oft conscious of such, in the physical consciousness of the entity. But in moments of deep meditation and prayer, there comes oft that vision as of seeing his face, worn at times, at others that smile, that expression that brings the hope so necessary in the heart of the human, that there's the better way, there's safety in his presence, in the consciousness of the abiding faith in him. The name then was morale. Too much might not be said as to the attainments of the entity through that experience, and as to the activities in a helpful manner that the entity brought into the experiences even of the closer disciples in their periods of disturbance because of physical conditions. The entity, as others, finds itself then in a material world, with the activities as related to material things, mental things, spiritual attitudes and effect. The application of the abilities from the experiences in the earth brings definite relationships with others in the varied undertakings. These at times have been and are very satisfactory. At others the entity finds them rather at variance one to another. Then to make these relationships such that there may be not only the material proposition nor the mental attitudes, but all coordinating, cooperating one with another, becomes the problem. In seeking the answer then to any problem, the entity may find same if it will first the mental self make definite efforts to gain the answer through its own mental reasoning, analyzing the whole situations, much in the same manner, as there's a visualizing even before there's a drawing of how an individual room, or suite, or several would look under the varying treatments with the varying characters of lights or the like, as well as woods and shapes and forms and the like. If the whole situations are taken into consideration, there must necessarily be first the analysis of the character, as it were of the individual for whom such might be prepared. So, in the analyzing of the problems for self, analyze same much in the same manner, taking into consideration the individuals, their characters, their associations, their background, their outlook upon their relationships with others. And have the answer, yes or no. Then take the same considerations, with the answer, into the deep meditation, and let there still be the answer from the deeper within, but abide by that given thee. Do not become one that asks and does not abide by the answers. For they would soon become as naught to thee. For the promises are that he will meet thee within, that he is thy life, thy meat, thy daily understanding.